Alrighty, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Nate. I also go by Hockey Boy Nate. And today we are mainly going to be discussing the forecast for the future. Not today, not tomorrow, not Saturday, because as you can see in the Storm Prediction Center, they say that nothing really is going to happen. But we are going to discuss the snow event that's going to be happening in the Northeast, as well as the threat for severe weather. Yes, the severe weather is finally coming back, but it's coming to the Central Plains and the Midwest. And so if you guys are excited for all that, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, turn on notifications, share this with friends and family on all social media, follow me on all social medias, including Twitch, to which I Twitch stream every evening, to where I don't live stream here on YouTube for severe weather events, which, by the way, I do that. So if you want to stay tuned to all that stuff, please be my guest. But the only day that really is severe here, you can see Saturday and Friday are no severe. The only day is today, here, Thursday. Well, this is actually not March anymore. It's April 1st. Imagine if this was a whole April Fool's joke. This marginal down here. The only threat here for this is hail, which is you have a 5% chance of using hail over 1 inch within 25 miles of a point, and wind, which is a 5% chance of you seeing 58 mile per hour winds or above within 25 miles of a point. So Fort Lauderdale, Coral Springs, Port St. Lucie, West Palm Beach, Sunrise, Florida, you guys have the chance of seeing those severe storms. Not exactly Miami. Miami's a little too far south and east, but you're right on the border, so I wouldn't be surprised if you had a passing shower or two. Alright, more or less, let's take a look at the GFS here. We're going to want to still get the timings of that snow event that's happening in the Northeast, and according to the GFS, it should be happening now, but it isn't really. It isn't really happening right now. If we go over to my panels here, we'll go to the one panel real quickly, and we'll go over to the State College radar. There is some reports of snow in New York, so it's already starting to fall, but now across the board there isn't really too much snow. I think the better way to actually find out what all is happening is if we take a look at the satellite imagery, and we'll pull this up here in a second. Here is the satellite over our general vicinity. We're going to do the composite radar, and you can see there's little bits and bobs of snow across the board. Can't exactly say that it's all too interesting, but let's see. We'll do the infrared, and yeah, there's just some bands of snow here. There's some snow in northern New York and stuff like that, but the snow, for the most part, if it's already came through, it's falling now. If it hasn't come through before, it's coming now. But these band of snowstorms will be moving off to the north and east. So the people ahead of that really need to monitor this, or at least this band right here. This is moving a bit further south because there's no wind to actually pick this thing up. So this is your cold front that's moving on through. This is actually the cold air, the snowstorms pushing into the mid-Atlantic. So we might see some areas of snow in the northern parts of the mid-Atlantic, maybe Maryland, West Virginia, into southern Pennsylvania and stuff like that. But knowing the mid-Atlantic well myself, it's going to be very hard for us to actually see a whole lot, because with our luck, it usually doesn't happen. So let's go over and see how much snow is left for you all, because that is probably the best thing to do in this situation. So still some decent amounts of snow to come for the rest of western Pennsylvania and the Appalachians of West Virginia, but more or less the threat for places like Pittsburgh and Erie and areas near Cleveland all the way over into Canton. You guys still have a little bit of dusting, but the main threat is kind of over for you all. What isn't over is places like northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire, into northern Maine, as well as upstate New York. You guys could still get some amounts of 1 to 3 inches, maybe even 3 to 5 in some higher elevations, but still some areas that could get some snow, maybe even a bit of a dusting. So that's something to keep in mind with all of that. All right, the main topic of this video is not the snow, even though we probably should do the ice, but there isn't really a lot more ice to go about. So the main topic of this video, more or less, is the threat for severe weather on the horizon. And you guys might be wondering, well, I mean, it's gonna be this mid-time next week. Isn't this a bit too far out to make the prediction? And you know, you might be right in that sense, but at the same time, I've got a lot of confidence that we're going to see some severe weather. I have tremendous confidence that we're going to see some severe weather in the middle part of next week. And a lot of the weather community on Twitter does too. But here's what I'm talking about, all right? This is Tuesday evening, the 6th on April. You can see you have your wind shear, your jet stream, which is dipping through. This is your trough. Your ridge is still in effect from the last storm. But your trough is pushing on through, and that right on the southeastern side of the trough, typically in this area right here, is where you can see your severe storms. You have your moisture that'll be evecting from the Gulf, and you'll have your area to where the wind shear converges and your moisture converges. That is where you typically see thunderstorms. You never see thunderstorms up here because there is no moisture. It's all cold. And you never get storms at the rear over here because it's still cold, even though you have moisture, but the cold air is already pushed on through. So your greatest chance of severe weather will most likely be on the southern or southeastern edge of the low pressure system. So right in here within the Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska vicinity, this is where you can see your severe weather. If we take a look at the dew points here, dew points are pretty decent. They get up into the 60s for the most part. They're in the low 50s right at the dry line here across Oklahoma and Texas. But they're in the 60s for the most part, and this might be setting up for the 7th on Wednesday, which Wednesday is the day that I've been talking about a lot. But as we get into days like the 7th, boom, look at this massive cold front that develops. Massive dry line, massive cold front. And we could see some severe weather from, you know, all the way down into the Dallas-Fort Worth, maybe even further south than that to like places like Austin, all the way up into places like the upper Midwest. And that is an expansive line of severe weather that could form off of this. You know, regardless of all the moisture, even though there is plenty of it. You know, most of the dew points here are the low 60s to upper 60s. You know, it depends upon where you are. The further north you get, the lesser the dew points are. But still, you know, it ascends with height that there is a bit of moisture there. And actually, I am curious. I highly doubt it has this. But I can't seem to find it here. Other severe weather. There is enough CAPE that the GFS is picking up on here. There is plenty of CAPE. Maybe not like large amounts of CAPE to produce, you know, large thunderstorms and supercells, but you still have some in upwards of over 1,000 to maybe even 2,000 joules per kilogram along the line. So that is something to keep in mind. And that places like, you know, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, definitely Missouri, Iowa, you guys need to monitor this. I'd say Kansas, Iowa, Missouri, northern Oklahoma, northern Arkansas really need to monitor this system heavily. Mainly because if the low-level jet comes out like this and the winds continue to move out like that, you can get some rotating thunderstorms, and your hodograph could be really interesting within those areas. But I'm just assuming that the low-level jet is coming from the winds are coming from the south. So I haven't taken a look at the hodographs at all, but that's just me assuming that that's what it's going to be like. And then as it ascends with the day, look at this. it actually peaks 2,000 joules per kilogram. You actually have some areas across the board that have larger amounts of CAPE. And so this is an event right here on Wednesday that we really need to watch. And there's even 2,000 joules per kilogram CAPE in places like Oklahoma and Texas. Now, sure, the wind shear might not be as strong. The wind shear may not be as strong. You know, I'll move over to the 500 millibar winds. And it's actually, now that I think about it, it's pretty even across the board here. It might be stronger over towards, you know, Kansas, Iowa, and Missouri. But you also have some really strong wind shear from this. Your subtropical jet is really plowing through here. This is the other low-level jet that's throughout the northern hemisphere. You have your low-level jet that's coming from the northern parts like Canada and stuff like that. Then you have your subtropical jet that can amplify some severe weather. So usually when those two combine, you typically get strong severe weather events. In some areas, the wind shear is actually in upwards of, say, 60 to 70 knots here. I'll say 60, low 60 knots, just to be conservative here. But that is some strong wind shear across the board. And you know, just a reminder to people who don't know events that combined with the regular low-level jet that comes from Canada and stuff like that, and the subtropical jet. A good example of this, not comparing this event to this event at all, but a good example of how the subtropical jet and the low-level jet actually combined and formed some really strong wind shear was events like Easter. So the Easter outbreak of 2020, that actually combined both the two, and both had really strong wind shear. As a matter of fact, the low-level jet actually had stronger wind shear than the subtropical jet, but the subtropical jet just actually added on to it. So just something to keep in mind here, that this might be something to really watch out for, actually across the board here. I won't just say one area. I'll just say the southern plains all the way up into the Midwest. That is the area to which we can expect some severe weather. So Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, you guys can expect some severe weather Tuesday to Wednesday. And then we'll move off into Thursday here. We're getting into the latter part of the model. But Thursday overnight for Illinois is looking pretty interesting. But I'm also noticing this too here. There might be another low pressure system that's forming off to the south of this main low pressure system. You can see this low pressure here with the swirl in the dew point. And that's all the cold air that's seeping in behind all of this because it's so far north and there's so much cold air into Canada right now. That's basically what it's doing to itself. It's kind of staying stationary and it's getting colder and colder. So you still have the threat for severe storms in places like Ohio River Valley, but this right here is what I'm really curious about. This low pressure system with this occluded boundary that I'm starting to see, this dry line that'll push on through, and the warm, moist air that's advecting into Oklahoma and Texas here on Thursday. This is a really interesting event that I'm really going to want to monitor. So Arkansas, maybe into Oklahoma, Louisiana, Texas, you guys really need to monitor this event on Thursday, and then it starts to become a bit more of a linear mode, a cold front, if you will, as the low pressure system passes off through. So that's something to keep in mind as well. All right, to back up my evidence, besides not using the GFS, I'm really curious as to what the Euro says, and then we're going to take a look at the CIPS extended analog, which contains the GEFS. That supports my theory relatively well. So we're going to go over here. This is Sunday, April 4th. This is April 10th. There we go. All right, so here's the 5th, and then we're approaching the 6th now. This is Tuesday. Look at all the moisture. The moisture starts to seep up, and there's your new low pressure system. It actually says it forms a bit further to the south, and that Iowa actually doesn't get as much severe storms, but I actually fully anticipate this thing to move further north, just a bit further north into over Nebraska and stuff like that. But Kansas and Oklahoma, as well as Texas, still seems to be in that severe weather threat, and that is the thing that we can confirm so far with the Euro model. And the Euro actually wants this to be a whole lot worse into Wednesday. Wednesday, actually, this looks like a really strong low pressure system that drops into Oklahoma. So you have your low right here. You have your dry line with your thunderstorms along that line. And we could particularly see some severe weather again in Arkansas. I know Arkansas had to deal with that 10% with a bunch of tornadoes across the board just last week. And you guys might be getting some more severe weather into the mid parts of next week and around Wednesday. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And then not really a huge threat for severe weather into the deep south, but you have your surface low that kind of moves around within there. And so the dew points are still relatively fresh within that vicinity to create some thunderstorms around that low pressure system. But your wind shear is really at the southern part of it over the Gulf of Mexico into places of Florida. So Florida might actually get a decent threat for severe weather, maybe even tornadoes on Thursday into Friday. But that's something to keep in mind as we get closer to that event. And you also might have the threat for some severe weather into Mississippi and Alabama on Thursday as well. But as I said, as we get closer to the event, that's when we'll start to know. One thing we do know is that the GEFS actually somewhat agrees with this. And based off the analogs here, we have a massive expansion of a decent chance for severe weather. This is the 6 to 8 day forecast, the percentage of the top 105 analogs with at least one severe weather report within 110 kilometers of a grid point. So it takes the analogs from each GEFS member, which I believe there are, I think there's 51 of them, something like that, because it takes there's different ensembles, if you will, that go into making just one model. Or at least one main model run. You can take a look at all the different ensembles and how it projects itself or projects the weather in the future. But typically, it combines all into one, or if you will, makes just one rough estimate forecast based off of what all it's forecasted with its different ensemble members. So here's the severe weather, the percentage for severe report. You can see there are some decent chances above a 50% into the border of Texas and Oklahoma, heading into Oklahoma, places near Kansas City or west of Kansas City. You guys actually have a 60% chance. Places near Springfield, Missouri, near Joplin and stuff like that, you guys have above a 50%. One thing I do want to mention real quickly is that this area near St. Louis, near Quad Cities, you guys actually have a 65 to almost a 70% chance of seeing a severe weather report based off of this. So this is something to keep in mind. This is not set in stone. I will say that much, But there are some instances based off of us looking at the models to where we can't just help but notice that this does show up here, and that this does tell us that there is the really interesting potential of some severe weather within the mid part of next week. Actually, maybe early to mid part of next week into the latter parts of next week. The one thing I do want to mention too, not to exclude the viewers who live in Ohio, but they actually have above a 50% chance of a severe weather as well. So Hoosier Alley might actually get into the action in all this. One thing I do want to make a note of is that the 6 to 8 day forecast here for this analog is from the 6th to the 9th. So that's the time frame right there. And then this right here is the 9th to the 12th. You can see how it actually lowers a bit in the percentile of severe weather reports, but there still is the chance for some severe weather in the south, especially near Texas. Right along that low pressure system that I mentioned before with the GFS, as to how it could reform down there near Oklahoma and provide some more severe weather into places like Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana. So that is something to keep in mind as this continues to move on through. Um, but really something to watch out for as this severe weather continues to approach us. We will continue to monitor this as much as possible. We are practically severe weather heavy on this channel. My bias towards severe weather is expansive, but yeah, I do some other weather forecasts and predictions as well. Not really as much to fire. You could probably tell that there was a critical fire risk today, and there typically is a critical fire risk every day, so not really much to talk about in my honest opinion, especially since I can't really forecast it all too well. Tropical systems, whenever that gets down there, we'll start talking about that, but haven't had the need to talk about tropical systems, and I feel like we won't need to have to talk about it for another month. So if you guys want to stick around for all that severe weather for next week, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, turn on notifications, share this with friends and family and on social media. Follow me on all social medias, including my Discord server down in the description down below. They're doing a movie night, I think, on Friday. So if you guys want to join that movie night, feel free to do so. That's going to be it for me, guys. My name is Nate. I also go by Hockey Boy Nate. And I will catch you guys tonight on stream for Twitch if you guys want to join that. So see you all later. Peace.